Alright, let's cut to the chase. Kingdom Hearts 3, it's a game that I don't like very much. I know it, you know it, and I'm pretty sure the Pope knows it. I think this game's a big piece of poop. This game is, without a shadow of a doubt, the biggest disappointment I've ever had the displeasure of experiencing. Why does the game feel the need to pad itself out with a bunch of filler? Is it because the game can be beaten in under 20 hours? Why does the story suck? There are plot points that go nowhere and character motivations that come out of nowhere. Why does everyone like to stand perfectly still, not ever doing anything? Aqua just stands there as her friend gets murdered. What was she thinking? Was she hungry? Was she craving a delicious meal?
The ultimate stuffed crust pizza, a never-before-seen pizza creation at a never-thought-possible price.
And where are all the Final Fantasy characters? No Leon, no Cloud, no Sephiroth boss fight? What a joke! This isn't even a crossover anymore. It's a poorly written fanfiction where Nomura's OCs run around in Disney worlds. And what's even the point of the Disney world? Sora had the power of waking this whole time? We wasted 15 hours of our lives for this? Is this game a joke? This is easily one of the worst games I have ever played. Oh well, at least we have the Final Fantasy VII Remake to look forward to. I mean, guys, come on, it's Final Fantasy VII. How could they possibly mess that up? Now, in case if it wasn't obvious, those were my immediate thoughts upon clearing my first playthrough of Kingdom Hearts 3. And sure enough, my thoughts didn't really change for the better the longer I sat on it. If anything, the game only got worse and worse the more I thought about it. Now, I didn't attend the midnight release for this game, a release event that had me waiting in line for 2 hours in the cold, standing by a dumpster behind my local GameStop and spending extra money to get the special edition, just for me to come out of this being like, yeah, no, this game sucks shit. I really wanted to love this game, but try as I might, I just couldn't. Now, if any of this sounds familiar, the Final Fantasy VII Remake almost completely mirrored my disappointment with Kingdom Hearts 3. However, there is a bit of a disconnect between these two. I disliked the Final Fantasy Remake so much to the point where I would never want to play it again, and I have absolutely zero interest in where this series is headed. Now, despite Kingdom Hearts 3 being a huge letdown and my faith in Nomura's ability as a writer being completely shattered, the Kingdom Hearts series hasn't left my mind. In all fairness, the game did get some admittedly really cool looking DLC. Sora even got added into Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, making it possible for me to take this really cool screenshot, which is just stupid cool, by the way. And also, Kingdom Hearts 4 does look promising. Whether or not I think it'll be good or worth the wait is something else entirely. Even though I'm fed up with J.J. Abrams, Tetsuya Nomura's mystery box bullshit, and I can't say with full confidence that I'm invested in Kingdom Hearts anymore, there's still something about this series, and this game in particular, that keeps pulling me in, despite the damage dealt by Kingdom Hearts 3. So, why is this? Well, today I've set out to find the answers. That's right, folks, I did the unthinkable. I gave Kingdom Hearts 3 a second chance. So, after 20 hours and a second playthrough of the game, has my standing on Kingdom Hearts 3 changed at all? Did this playthrough restore my faith in Tetsuya Nomura? No, not really. But that's not to say that I didn't find anything new during this playthrough, and believe it or not, I actually found quite a bit of new things this time around, both bad and good. I've actually sat down and written multiple drafts of this script. Like, I knew the kind of things I've been wanting to say, but expressing and organizing my thoughts has been quite the ordeal, so if you're wondering why it took so long for this video to come out, well, there's your answer. But alas, I think I figured it out, like why this series lives rent-free in my head, even now, and I think it's safe to say that I finally understand the point of Kingdom Hearts, and I have a better understanding as to why this game doesn't work for me. Now, before we get too deep into this, I want to nip this in the butt ASAP. Like, a lot of die-hard fans of this game say that the only reason why most people don't enjoy this game is because they're not playing on Critical the way God intended. Now, first of all, Critical wasn't even available at launch, so no. And second, I have a lot of problems with this game, but the difficulty has never been one of them. Sure, I don't think I died during my playthrough, but that's not to say that this game was a total cakewalk. Like, in terms of difficulty, this game felt just fine as far as I'm concerned, and even then, that's not what I'm looking for in a Kingdom Hearts game. Actually, it's in the combat where I think this game shines its brightest, and I know that's kind of a hot take because most of the people that I know that have played this game found the combat to be boring. The reason being is that this game gives the player way too many options, so many to the point where some abilities go completely unused. Some people might even be overwhelmed in later parts of the game where you're given like 7 prompts to choose from, and you meant to use a Keyblade transformation, but you accidentally picked something else entirely. And Lord knows, it happened to me more than once. First things first, you can now upgrade your Keyblade, so if you have one that you really like to use, you can now upgrade it and you can even use it up until the final battle. See, in the other games, you really couldn't do this because if there was one that you had that you really liked, you were probably going to be getting a better one anyway, so you would just be swapping out Keyblades for different ones, and it didn't really feel that special, but that's not the case in Kingdom Hearts 3. Keyblades are a lot more effective in this game than in previous entries because each one has their own transformation that changes how you dish out damage, as well as having unique abilities. I remember my first playthrough, I stuck with this Keyblade that you get when you clear the Kingdom of Corona, Ever After. It's a Keyblade that has a really powerful transformation that shoots magic everywhere, and its final transformation is this. This time around, I stuck with the Kingdom Key for most of the game, and I had no idea this was how you use the abilities from the first Kingdom Hearts. I stuck with this one until I cleared the Caribbean and got the Wheel of Fate, a Keyblade that transforms into this giant lance and dishes out strong attacks and has really good reach. See, I used to be a Dragoon in Final Fantasy XIV, so taking up a lance-type weapon again felt really good. And its final transformation has the Kraken come out and slap enemies around with its giant tentacles. It's really cool, and it's honestly one of my favorite Keyblades in the entire series. I'll be honest, I think I like the Keyblade transformations more than the dry forms in Kingdom Hearts 2. They were cool, but I never felt the need to use them that often. Maybe it speaks to how easy it is to activate the Keyblade transformations, but I use these much more than the dry forms, and I feel like as if they do a better job of shaking up the combat. Now, maybe they could have dialed it back a little bit, sure, make it a little bit more challenging to bring them out, because you really can use these as often as you'd like, and there's no penalty for doing so. As they are, I like them, and I wouldn't be opposed to seeing them come back in the future. I think it's pretty cool how this game is kind of like a marriage of previous mechanics throughout the history of Kingdom Hearts. Like, the level design is pretty open-ended like the first game, there's a neat transformation ability like in Kingdom Hearts 2, the shock lock returns from Birth by Sleep, the flow motion is back from Dream Drop Distance, the game is boring as sin like Chain of Memories, it feels like a chore to play like in 358 Days Over 2, and the story is fucking dumb like in Coded. I'm sorry, I got a little sidetracked. Okay, so in all seriousness, I do think it's really cool how a lot of things come back for Kingdom Hearts 3. It kind of gives the game a feeling of finality, like as if the entire series has been building up to this point. But even still, the game does have a new trick or two up its sleeve, like the attractions. The mechanic that most people hate, even the people who are diehard fans of this game, they kind of say that this mechanic sucks. Well, here's another weird take for you. I actually think they're fine. It's a similar problem that the Keyblade transformations have, where they come up far too frequently. But honestly, like Sora having the ability to conjure up these giant Disney rides to clear up rooms of Heartless is probably the most fitting thing for this character. And honestly, if he conjured up like a lethal roller coaster, he could have thrown Xehanort on it and the game would have been over much, much sooner. Now that being said, despite the praise that I've given so far, the combat does get old after a while. It's really the only thing to do in the game. I mean, it's cool that the shock lock and the flow motion are back, but outside of the combat, they're almost never used. And that's when it dawned on me, the real reason why playing this game is a chore, it's the level design. I think I see what the team were trying to do here. It's the long-awaited third installment on a home console, so they wanted to go big by having these massive worlds you can explore, brimming with detail with all sorts of goodies to find. And in a way, they succeeded. These worlds are huge and they look gorgeous, but very few worlds in this game asks you to engage with it in any meaningful way. In most of these worlds, you just run around these huge, often flat environments, fighting wave after wave of Heartless. You got a world like Arendelle that has you climb this giant mountain, so there's a neat sense of verticality that hasn't been in the series before, maybe Dream Drop Distance excluded. The problem is that the scenery never changes. There's this one part where you got to go through this giant ice maze, and that's all that you get in terms of variety. Do you ever get to go to the village? No. Or how about Elsa's castle? That's a no-brainer. No. Oh, but thank God we get to run around this really tight space looking for pieces of a talking snowman that doesn't shut up. Arendelle? More like, I'm in hell.
No!
Wanna build a snowman?
No!
Come on, let's go and play.
No!
I never see you anymore.
Years
Come out
passed
the
and we
door.
barely
It's
ever
like
saw each other.
This is something that infects almost all of the worlds in Kingdom Hearts 3. In the Kingdom of Corona, you spend most of your time running around in fields, smelling the roses, fighting wave after wave of Heartless, and then when you get to the kingdom itself, you play a bland, dancing minigame. Toy Box starts off promising, with you running around in Andy's room and playing in his neighborhood, but then you get stuck in a mall and suddenly becomes an advertisement for Kingdom Hearts 4. I have more to say on that, but I'll save that for later. Monstropolis is a bunch of hallways in a factory, San Francisco feels like a generic city, and why is it that one of the final worlds that you visit before the endgame makes you run through rings? Is this really the best that this game can do? Sora controls better than ever. He's much faster, he can run up walls, he can bounce around like a goddamn pinball, despite characters dogpiling on this poor kid, seeing how he's now just a weak little baby boy. This is the best that Sora's ever felt to control, but it's completely wasted. Honestly, it's kind of ironic how this game has like the most NPCs walking around in these worlds, yet the worlds themselves feel so lifeless and stagnant. Now, I will say one of my favorite things about Kingdom Hearts 3 were the lucky emblems. If you take a picture of these, you get a neat little reward, and it requires you to actually stop and examine your surroundings. It's another nice nod to the Disney theme parks, which is appreciated. Like, I think it's really cool how this was the game that started to branch out of Disney movies and started to show love for the parks themselves. Most of the worlds, in my opinion anyways, are absolute stinkers. There are, however, two exceptions, and it just so happens that I think these two worlds are not only the best worlds in the game, but some of my favorites from the series as a whole. One of them is actually the first world that you get to, and it helps the game start off with a bang. Mount Olympus is an excellent world that is always shaking things up and is paced very well. You're never in one area for too long. You start off exploring the mountain, then you get thrust into a city under attack, and you help Hercules get things under control. You make your way back up the mountain, and then you fight what was a super boss from the first Kingdom Hearts game, and then you make your way to the Golden Gates of Olympus. Like, honestly, this setup reminds me a lot of the opening for God of War 3, where with climbing the giant mountain and dealing with titans. The scale is honestly pretty comparable too. The other is one of the last worlds that you go to, and sure enough, they really did save the best for last, the Caribbean. Like Mount Olympus, this world is always shaking things up. You get a giant boat and you get to sail around to different islands, and the ship combat is surprisingly decent, and you even get to explore underwater and find all sorts of goodies and treasure with, by far, the best underwater controls in the series. You know, you get to explore, you're engaging with the environment, it feels like a real place, and it's the only world in the entire game that makes it feel like as if you're going on this epic adventure. This one rules. Like, I know some people don't like the part where you have to collect the 300 crabs, and yeah, even I can admit that it does feel a bit arbitrary, but it gives you an excuse, albeit a poor one, to explore your surroundings and to use everything that you have under your belt. As cool as these worlds were, they still share problems that plague the other worlds in the game. That being that these worlds drag on for what feels like an eternity. Now, it's not as bad in Olympus or the Caribbean because with how often things change, you don't feel the time go by. However, in the cases of the other worlds, you really feel it. Kingdom Hearts 2 had the idea that you revisit worlds halfway through the game, and this made it so that you were never in one place for too long and that you were always going from world to world. It kept things fresh and interesting. This isn't the case in Kingdom Hearts 3. There's 7 Disney worlds this time around, and it makes sense on paper seeing how massive these worlds are, but as I said before, you never get to do anything meaningful in these worlds, so playing through them is just boring. And how about the way how they handle the storytelling in these Disney worlds? Like, I think it's cool how in the cases for Toy Story, Big Hero 6, and Monsters Inc., Kingdom Hearts 3 takes place after the events of those movies. Like, in a weird way, it kind of makes it feel like as if this game is canon to those movies. It's a fun thought. As for the worlds that follow the stories from their films, they really dropped the ball here. Like, when this game came out, I hadn't seen Tangled, and at the time, I genuinely had no idea what was going on. Like, things are happening, and the player isn't given any context, because, like, what, am I supposed to watch these movies beforehand? Is that on me to understand what's going on? I have to do fucking homework to play Kingdom Hearts? Oh, wait, no, that is right. Oh, wait, no, but you know what? Hang on. Thank God. We have a character who's explaining everything with the most soul-draining performance. Like, look, even Sora's getting bored. The poor dude looks like he's about to pass out, and there he goes. So, in fairness, I don't know how you could take something from At World's End, put it in a Kingdom Hearts game, and have it make sense. Like, even people who have watched the movie have a hard time following it because there's like 50 different things going on at a given time. You know, it's quite the uphill battle with that one, but man, I fucking love that movie. But you know, at least in this world, we get to see Sora go monkey mode on my favorite Disney villain, so, you know, that's pretty cool. And I know some people are gonna be like, oh wow, dude, you're complaining about the story in a kid's game? But like, is it though? Like, this is supposed to be the big finale of a story that had its start in 2002. Kids who played this game on the PS2 when it came out grew up and maybe even had a few kids of their own. And again, like, if the core demographic of this game is kids, do you really mean to tell me that kids get excited for stuff like this?
Now that our two computers have been successfully networked together, I can take control of the terminal there and change the privileges.
Aren't you making it a little too obvious?
We were instructed to guide him.
Yes. Just look at them.
His empty body stayed in the present, took the name Xemnas, and founded Organization 13.
It reminds me of a promise I made.
To who?
Just someone I once met. Can't tell.
Sora, the reason we're here is because you and your friends defeated our nobodies, thereby recompleting us. We cast off our hearts by choice, make no mistake, but we didn't know that Xemnas, or rather, Xehanort, was deceiving us.
Oh dear. Oh god, okay, is it really time to talk about the story? Alright, let's get into it. I remember when I first beat the game. My sister and I were at the completion screen with our jaws on the floor. Both of us were completely dumbfounded by how badly they failed here. Kingdom Hearts 3 was, and will always be, a disappointing game, and a lot of that is because of how badly this game is written. If you'd asked me a few years ago, specifically, what made the story of Kingdom Hearts 3 so bad, I'd given you a long list of moments that didn't sit right with me. While the moments and story beats that irked me back then irk me now, I have a better understanding as to why they do. The thing is, on paper, Kingdom Hearts 3 has all of the right ingredients to tell a compelling and exciting finale. Characters like Riku and Kairi have their own things to do to prepare for the final battle, fan-favorite characters come back, there's drama within the organization, and shakeups and betrayals and sabotage. Some characters get tested and pushed beyond their limits, and that ending. This series began with a young boy setting out on this huge adventure trying to find his friends, and the series ends by that boy sacrificing himself to save the woman that he loves and his friends setting off on their own adventure to go find him. That is the perfect ending for the saga. So how exactly did they mess it up? First things first, it's how these cutscenes are presented. Characters just stand around and exposit information that we've already learned with the blandest, most lifeless voice acting imaginable. Characters stand in single file while the big bads wipe the floor with them one by one in cheap and anticlimactic ways. Characters are given objectives, like how Riku and Mickey have to find Aqua and how Kairi and Axel have to train for the war, but what does that entail? Riku and Mickey have to fight some Heartless at a beach, and Riku gets a haircut. Thrilling! Kairi and Axel have all this time to train, but first of all, we never see it, and second of all, when it's their time to shine, Axel gets wiped from the board super early, and Kairi gets kidnapped and then murdered. And take the scene where Yen Sid makes his grand entrance. The party is surrounded by all of these Heartless, but they're just standing there, doing nothing. You compare this to the cutscenes in any of the Xenoblade games, where if there's a fight, you actually see the characters fighting, and they're engaging with each other, and they're bantering, and they're having fun. There's nothing this grand or this epic in Kingdom Hearts 3. Or how about when Vexen talks to Ansem about atoning for his sins? Where did this come from? It's not said. Why does he want to atone? The game is chock full of examples like these, and so many characters and opportunities get wasted. The second, and the nail in the coffin for me, is that this game had one job: to wrap up the story that's been going on since 2002, to give these characters the closure that they deserve. That's all it had to do, and I understand it's not an easy task when there's been so much anticipation from fans to know how this story is going to end. There was, no doubt, a tremendous amount of pressure, and I don't envy the position of Tetsuya Nomura, but the fact of the matter is that he wastes so much time on setting up the next big arc that the finale suffers. That's what a lot of this game feels like. Setup. It tries to get all of the Dark Seeker baggage out of the way so we can get to the new and shiny Lost Masters arc. That's why the Toy Story world doesn't even feel related to the movie it's from. So much focus is on this Verum Rex idea, and sure enough, it's going to be a huge plot point going forward. It wastes time teasing this black box that Pete and Maleficent and members of the organization are after, and what does it lead to? Nothing. Axel and Sayax talk before their big showdown, and they ramble on and on about this girl that's never been mentioned before, and sure enough, she never gets mentioned after this. The only thing this game had to do was focus on wrapping up the story. Instead of wasting time on elements that don't go anywhere, Nomura could have added more to what we've already have, to flesh out the things that are already here. It's bad enough that dead characters come back to life, that's a trope that I personally can't stand, but you'd think that Nomura would make the most of this. You'd think we'd have a lot of fun and interesting character interactions with these heroes of light, but they never talk to each other. It'd be a no-brainer to have Ventus and Roxas interact because, look at them, but they don't even say a word to each other. If Nomura wanted to set up the next arc, that's fine. That's what the secret reports could be used for, or the secret ending. That's what the DLC episode is used for. Kingdom Hearts 3 promised that it would pay off all of these years of setup, but in its place of a satisfying and well-earned conclusion, we just got more setup. And for those of you who say that the DLC fixes the story, first of all, I usually don't buy DLC for a game that I dislike. Second, that's a funny way of admitting that there was something wrong to begin with. And third, it really doesn't. This is like a Dollar Tree Band-Aid half-assedly slapped onto a bullet wound. Now, all of that being said, I get it. I really do. Like, we all know that Nomura was hard at work on Final Fantasy Versus 13. This was a game that was supposed to be a part of something much, much larger. It was an ambitious project called the Fabula Nova Crystallis. Games like Final Fantasy 13, Type 0, and Nomura's very own Versus 13 were all supposed to be a part of a shared universe that shared the same mythology and lore. It's clear as day that whatever Nomura has planned for the next big arc is going to be using elements from the scrapped Versus 13. I mean, shoot, the ending of the DLC is almost exactly, shot for shot, a recreation of a Versus 13 trailer. However, the game wasn't really getting anywhere, and Nomura was pulled from the project, and his work was completely transformed into something else entirely. That must have been frustrating as it was heartbreaking. He still had these ideas from Versus 13 bouncing around in his head, and now he has an outlet to express these ideas. I, for one, was interested in Versus 13, and the idea of it coming back within the realms of Kingdom Hearts should excite me. But if Nomura rushed the conclusion of the Dark Seeker saga, a story that's been going on for almost 20 years, why should I have faith that he'll see this one through to the end? How am I supposed to know he won't drop the ball again just to get to the next, more shiny arc? If Kingdom Hearts 4 ends up being a tightly written and focused story, then maybe I'll give it a shot. But fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. There is, however, something that I've neglected to talk about. It's actually the thing that's keeping me connected to the series, even now. See, regarding the Final Fantasy VII Remake, for example, I could wipe my hands with that and not feel too bad because these characters aren't actually the characters from Final Fantasy VII. They're versions of these characters from another universe. Why should I care what happens to them? The characters in Kingdom Hearts, on the other hand, are the same ones from the beginning, and they're the characters that I've grown up with. Despite Kingdom Hearts 3 being a huge letdown, there's still a part of me that's, at the very least, curious to see where these characters are going to go. One of these characters just so happens to be the poster boy for the series. It's time to talk about Sora. There's a lot to say about this kid, and I honestly find his portrayal in this game to be kinda a mixed bag. Like, there are moments where I see the kid that I met on the PS2 20 years ago, but for some reason, they kind of bastardize him here. Like, sure, Sora was naive, and that was part of what made him so charming and endearing, but he was never stupid. Characters like to crack jokes about how Sora can't read or how he can't count, and there are moments where Sora's just a little too much. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not fond of this version of Sora, but at the end of the day, he's still the Sora that we all know. Like, the Sora that we grew up with is still in there. This kid, within the 20 years that these games have been around, has been through so much. He watched his homeworld get completely destroyed and got separated from his friends. He watched one of them turn to the dark side and even fought against him. He lost all of his memories and even had what memories were left be manipulated. He went into a coma. He lost his heart. He almost lost his body. He learned that there were multiple people, multiple hearts living inside of him, waiting to come out. And he sees it as his responsibility to bring them back so they can have a life to live of their own. And yet, through it all, he still cracks bad jokes, he makes goofy faces, and he's excited to go on adventures and meet new people. He's willing to find the good in others and to put others before himself. Throughout all of the turmoil and tragedy, despite all of the things that this poor kid went through, it never broke him. It never changed who he was at his core. And even though Kingdom Hearts 3 did him dirty, Sora is the reason I ever cared at all. Sora, in a weird way, is kind of emblematic of the Kingdom Hearts series as a whole. The video game industry is a fickle and ever-changing landscape. What was popular 5 years ago might not work so well in present times. It's an industry where compromises are always being made and where big-name publishers chase trends to make big bucks, where the identity of a game or a series can be altered to fit current trends. Look no further than the previously mentioned God of War. What used to be a thrilling and exciting series about revenge and fast-paced combat is now a slow, boring game that wants you to think but is going to tell you what you should think and is trying to emulate the feeling that you had while you played The Last of Us. Why? Because The Last of Us was super big and super popular, and it feels like as if almost every single AAA game has to be the slow, walkie-talkie kind of game. I mean, that's where the money's made. Kingdom Hearts 3 doesn't do anything like this. Kingdom Hearts as a series rarely did this. Sure, you'd look back in the early 2000s where trading cards were all the rage, we got Chain of Memories, but the way how cards were used in that game still felt like Kingdom Hearts. You could argue that maybe Kingdom Hearts 2 took some notes from the classic God of War games with the QuickTime events. Sure, but the identity and the soul of Kingdom Hearts wasn't compromised. It didn't play like a God of War clone, it played like Kingdom Hearts. This series is weird, and it's complicated, and for a while it was really hard to get into because you had games that were important to the overall story be scattered around on consoles that you may or may not own. But the beauty about it is that even when a new game had weird mechanics, or even if the game wasn't that good, it was still Kingdom Hearts. None of these games, good or bad, ever had their identity compromised, and it still had a lot of the heart and charm that these games are known for. That doesn't mean they don't sell out from time to time. You can't be a part of Disney and not sell your soul every once in a while, but the heart of these games have never been compromised. They don't chase trends to try to be something they're not in an attempt to pander to Western audiences. Kingdom Hearts knows what it is. It knows what people likes about it, and it relishes in it. All of this still holds true for Kingdom Hearts 3. I don't think this is a good game. It's honestly one of the biggest disappointments that I've ever played, but at the end of the day, it's still Kingdom Hearts, and it has a lot of the things that makes Kingdom Hearts the kind of series that it is. Now, is this a long-winded way of me saying, I'm glad that Kingdom Hearts 3 isn't a walkie-talkie game? I mean, that's a way to look at it, but that's not the point. You know, Kingdom Hearts 3 isn't a walkie-talkie game, it's not an open-world game, it's not a Battle Royale or a God of War clone, or even a World War II shooter. This series is its own unique thing. Kingdom Hearts is Kingdom Hearts. I want to close by saying that at the end of this journey that I took, I did find some newfounded respect for Tetsuya Nomura. The dude was pulled from his passion project, and he had to work on two of the most highly requested and highly anticipated games in Square Enix's history. The man is overworked and under a lot of pressure, and it doesn't seem as if Square Enix is lightening up their grip anytime soon. Tetsuya Nomura is a very talented and very hardworking man, and I can respect it even if I strongly dislike how he handled both Final Fantasy VII Remake and Kingdom Hearts 3. There's something to be said when you find someone with such a distinct style that works for you. Like when you're playing a game and you can just tell by how it looks or how it feels, and you can tell exactly who's steering the ship. Nomura is a man who knows what he likes, and his style works for a lot of people. It worked for me for the longest time. Recently, his work just hasn't been doing it for me, so it's time for me to close the book. Now, in fairness, there's still a lot more I could say about Kingdom Hearts 3, but there's also a lot of expertly made videos about this game that say all I could ever hope to say, and then some. And I didn't want this to be an angry rant video where I shit all over the game. I genuinely don't like making those kind of videos, and I also find they don't always hold up the best. Like, I don't know, like, I still stand by everything I said in my 7 Remake video, but at the same time, that one's a little hard to rewatch. And the thing is that, especially after the 7 Remake came out, my respect for Kingdom Hearts 3 only grew more and more, and I actually wanted to give this game another honest, fair chance. And I did. And I said everything I felt was worth saying, and now I can move on to other things. You know, maybe Kingdom Hearts 4 will be good. Maybe I'll check it out. I don't know. But I can take it easy knowing that Kingdom Hearts 3 is done, and there will never be another game quite like it. Like, sure, people will be excited for Kingdom Hearts 5 or 6 or whatever game may come out in the future, but there will never be a perfect storm again that was Kingdom Hearts 3. With all of the anticipation and the years and years of waiting and setup, nah, there could never be another game like that. Kingdom Hearts 3 is a game that exists, and frankly, I'm glad that it does.